Hey.
Okay, hi. We are back.
How you doing? We are back.
Hi. So today we're going to talk about The Dropout, the TV
We
show.
are.
That's currently on Hulu.
It is on the Hulu machine.
So if you have been living under a rock, this story...
I was going to say, this has kind of been out, but,
Yeah, there's a book. I mean...
Oh, shit, there's a book?
Yeah, this was a book before it was a show. And there's a podcast, too, actually.
But not this podcast.
No, not this one.
This is a different podcast. Hot for Justice, by the way.
Yeah. So we're going to transition a little bit to do episodes reviewing, like, true crime documentaries and stuff for a little while.
Yeah, and, maybe a book or two, or, like, a docuseries such as this. Just, like, true crime media. Basically, like, we're kind of, I don't want to say rebranding, because I feel like that's, like, really, what's the word, like, permanent sounding, but I feel like you can rebrand, like, indefinitely, but it also just sounds very a kind of way.
We're just transitioning for now, and then maybe we'll transition again later. Who knows, but...
Exactly. So basically this is, for the next indefinite future, going to be basically all screen recaps all the time.
Yeah.
Or book recaps, so it is what it is. I think we kind of touched on this in the last episode. The true crime space is a little bit funky-dunky right now.
Yeah.
And, not to, like, be, like, a Debbie Downer or anything like that, because that's not what, like, we're trying to do. We're here to be uplifting and, shine light on things that, deserve to be, brought to people's attention.
Yeah.
That's been the point from the get-go, but other people in this space don't share that sentiment, I would say, to be diplomatic about it.
I mean, listen, like, true, I think it's really easy for people who are into true crime to forget that it's actual people.
Right.
Who are affected and who lose their lives, and it's not just a story, but, like, it's, it affects a lot of people.
Exactly.
So it just, I don't know. Yeah, it's just been, and we did talk about that last episode. It's just gotten really difficult to think about it. And, it's also, like, heavy because people do terrible things to each other.
Right. And so, I don't want to, like, make it sound like we're doing, like, a cop-out and, like, doing, like, the easy way out. But, like, we do enjoy doing this. Like, we, do really enjoy the space in an appropriate way. Not to, like, fucking toot our own horns or anything. But, like...
We do our best.
Yeah, like, we do our best to, not be dickbags about things, Yes. But, like, really, you know what I mean? Like, we try to be as respectful as possible, and, we didn't want to give up on the podcast. Like, we really do enjoy doing this. So, again, this may not be permanent, but we've been doing the screen recaps since, basically day one anyways. So, keeping that content going.
Now we're gonna get into The Dropout.
Yeah,
so this
enough
is, like,
of that.
such a good show.
Oh my god, so fucking good.
I highly recommend it. I'm trying to scroll right now so I can see how many episodes there were. There were 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And it tells the story of Elizabeth Holmes. So if any of you aren't familiar with who she is, she essentially starts this... She drops out of Stanford and she starts this startup called Theranos.
Theranos.
Yeah.
And this is, like, right kind of, like, in our back door. Or back door.
Yeah.
In our backyard.
Because, I mean, the Bay Area...
100%. Like, this took place in Stanford, which is, like, an hour and a half from, like, where I live.
Yeah. So, it's so interesting to watch from the start... how it unfolds. I think that what's the actress's name? Amanda
Seyfried.
Yeah, she did.
It's Seyfried or Seyfried? I'm not sure.
So good.
Oh my god, yeah. And the, like, accent or whatever you want to call it, like, the drawl that she uses is, first of all, it's very, like, very on par with, like, the actual Elizabeth Holmes. I don't know if you've watched any of her, like, court footage or, like, depositions or anything.
Yeah.
She sounds a hell of a lot like her. Like, she definitely, like, nails the voice. Not much unlike, what's her fucking name? That did Anna Delvey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's so good. Julia...
Garner.
No. Is that Garner?
Gardner, I think, actually.
Gardner, yeah. Anyways. But yeah, you could tell that she definitely did her homework to make it seem as realistic as possible.
Yeah, like, she, like, nails the kind of, like, forever a little anxious, always a little too rattled up on maybe caffeine or green juice or fucking whatever the fuck is in that.
And like, not, especially at first.
Yeah, like, it's like a level of neuroticism, I would say.
Yeah, and I was gonna say also, like, she's obviously super smart.
Right. Very intelligent. I mean, she got into fucking biochem at Stanford. Hi.
Yeah.
Like,
also a little bit, you say anxious. It's also maybe a touch of, like, not confident.
But, like, she also, like, tries to play overconfident, which is really interesting. Like, she tries to, I don't know if it's, like, fake it till you make it or, like, whatever the fuck is going on there.
Yeah.
Like, she has a whole bit, I forget which episode it is, it's somewhere in the middle where she, like, actively tries to make herself, like, sound deeper.
She's trying to sound like a man.
Yeah, to be taken more seriously in this man's world, right? Because a lot of, especially in, like, the biotech space and, you know, really a lot of science and, like, STEM fields is very male dominated. And, you know,
especially in this time, like, this is in the early 2000s.
Yeah, this was, like, I think 2010-ish.
Part of it, so, like, when it started...
2003.
It's when the iPhone first comes out, so it was at least, like, what, 2004?
Yeah, 2003 is when she founded Theranos. So, I had to pull up her Wikipedia just so I wasn't talking out my butthole for once.
Yeah. So she starts off, she's from Texas, she gets into Stanford, she moves there. You know, she's impresses most of her professors and gets to do a research position as an undergrad, which, like, it was really for graduate students, but she wowed the professor so much. And then he ends up being on her board once she does start Theranos. And she has an idea so her idea is essentially to be able to create this machine that processes blood samples that's small, right? Like, it's tiny, it's portable.
Like, the concept was, like, the size of an iPod. Like,
and it can give you, like, instant results
with, like, a drop of blood was her big thing.
With
like,
a
drop of blood. Yeah, because
so
she was like, oh yeah, like, doing normal blood draws is, like, so much, you know, it's a big sample and, like, takes a long time to process and, you know, yada yada yada. I mean, anyone that's gotten a lab draw done at a hospital or doctor's office, you're not getting that shit back for, like, at least hours.
Yeah. And they take, like, 4 things of blood from you.
Right.
So, yeah, so that's kind of, like, the first few episodes is her, like, journey there. And also she meets Sunny when she does an exchange. She does an exchange to China.
Like a study abroad, I think, to Shanghai, if I'm not mistaken.
And so she's kind of, like, the odd one out, right? Like, she's trying to actually learn the language when all the other people there, mostly girls, are trying to party and, like, meet boys. Right. And, you know, she's, like, there's one scene where she's like, you really should be talking in Chinese to practice. And then that's where she meets Sunny, who had made a ton of money selling software. Or, right? I think software?
I believe so. But, like, he's, like, rich.
Yeah. So they become friends, which, let me just say something right now. That man was in his 40s and made friends with an 18-year-old, and it's creepy.
Yeah. My thing, I was having a conversation about this, a similar topic, the other day with some friends after that shit with Dane Cook came out over, like, Thursday, Friday. So for anyone, again, that's been living under a fucking rock, Dane Cook just proposed to his 23-year-old quote-unquote longtime girlfriend. He is a 50-year-old man. Honestly, no 50-year-old man should have anything in common with a 23-year-old. And
it's weird.
When you do the math, because then you're like, wait a minute, longtime girlfriend, how the fuck long have they been dating? They started dating, like, the day she turned 18. AKA, they were friends before, quote-unquote friends before that, or whatever the fuck they said. I skimmed a couple articles, and honestly, it just pissed me off, so I just, like, had to look away. So he groomed her. Like, let's, like, not split hairs about it. Like,
right. Well, he also had didn't he do that before?
I believe so. And also, he's, like, good buddies with Chris D'Elia, who, like, same deal. Like, again, basically, like, my whole, and I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, if you're with someone that's 10 years older than you, that you're creepy, or they're creepy, or anything like that. Because I think there's a degree, and I think 10, 15 years is kind of that, like, window of where it's little weird. Or like past 10, 15 years. And I think it depends on how old you are. Like, I think if, you're both, over 40 or whatever, that age difference I think is a little bit more negligible, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion. But like,
it's just, well, I think
if someone's in their early 20s or late teens and you're over 30,
yeah,
absolutely not. Even like mid 20s, if you're dating someone that's in their teens, if there's a 1 in your age and a 2 or higher in theirs, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I think, say, for example, if she'd met him at the age of 23 and then they got engaged,
I'd feel less weird about it.
I'd feel definitely different about it. Because while I might not do that, I mean, some people are into it, I guess that's fine, but like the fact that they were friends first strikes me as odd. But anyways, it's very comparable to this.
Right.
Because I don't remember exactly how old he was.
I think he was in his, like, early mid-40s.
But it's creepy. Like, it's creepy.
It's creepy. It's creepy-deepy. I don't like it.
And so they're friends. She meets him. They stay friends after they go back from their exchange.
Right.
And when while she's at college, she's sexually assaulted, and that kind of is like the impetus for her to just like quit school and go in on Theranos. And she kind of withdraws from everybody except for Sunny's there for her. Like, I think there was a scene where she got freaked out. She was alone and she called him, even though she had said, like, I think they even had a phone call, and she was like, "Why are you friends with me? It's weird."
Yeah. And then it proceeded to get weirder. Like,
yeah. And then they proceed to start a whole ass relationship, but it's fine.
Yeah, and honestly, like, jury's still out if like it was like out of convenience or usage, in my opinion. Especially like the actual like relationship. Like, I think it was very transactional. Yeah. Like, I think she was like, she definitely like filled a void in his life of the love, affection, physical, whatever. But like I don't think that. And again, I'm not a fucking therapist or like a psychiatrist or any of that, whatever. So this is just my very informal, humble opinion. I think that she's kind of like one of those like antisocial personality shits. And like akin to that, like I don't know if she's one of those people that actually is like capable of having a functional like regular relationship of any sort or any like meaningful relationship, if that makes sense.
The show really definitely. They really made her seem kind of like, like she had some, maybe, like, personality. Not personality. Like, maybe she's a sociopath. I don't know. She just, like...
she's a sociopath.
She didn't really seem to... Like, when one of the guys who started working with her, almost at the beginning, and he was her chemist, and when he killed himself, she wasn't even upset. She was just... like, worried about how it was
going to do his job, kind of thing. And, like, and how it's going to look for the company and her, not his well-being or his family's well-being.
Like, the only time she really seemed to have emotion was when it came to her company.
Right. Like, I don't have a great, like, verbiage for it, but, like, I just don't think she, like, has, like, the interpersonal skills in any way, shape, or form, and also, like, does not get social cues in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's glaringly obvious during and again, this is like a drama series, but like in the actual footage you see of her, if you look it up online, she's very much like this in like her like body language, the way she talks, the way she acts, presents herself. Like, she just does not understand, like she could not look at you and have a conversation with you and have it be any semblance of normal.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. So, it's just crazy. So she starts this company and she gets in front of all these big investors. Like
in Silicon Valley. She drops out of school at this point. We kind of glossed over that. Like,
yeah, she drops out of school, invests full time.
And her parents are like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, oh, don't worry, I'll just siphon my tuition money into this company that I'm trying to start. Yeah. And they're like, I'm sorry, what?
But they do it anyways.
They do. Which, props, like, they believe in her or whatever, but, like, goddamn, like, my mom would have actually probably strangled me.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really tough as the parents make that decision, but, It's like, okay, so they create this machine, right? And they're working on it. They get it to work one time.
Right.
And those are the results that they kind of fake when they go into these meetings to show that their model works. But it never did work after that, really.
No. And that's the thing. So, like, basically, like, her big thing was, like, oh, I need money to be able to produce a working machine.
Yeah.
But the investors, so, like, these, like, venture capitalists that were on an individual level, you know, like, I think Walgreens was the drugstore that was, like, funding part of it. Not CVS. It was Walgreens.
Yeah, it was Walgreens.
And, like, other, you know, companies that were giving the money. But they're like, hey, like, we need to see that, like, our money is producing a thing. And she's like, well, I need more money to produce you a thing. And they're like, no, you need to show us the thing before we give you the money. Like,
but she'd say it was proprietary information and they couldn't share.
Right.
And then
basically, like, giving these people the runaround.
Yeah. Which it astonishes me that all of these people that are, like, so high level didn't see that there was something wrong.
No.
Like,
and
okay, so as they keep getting bigger and bigger, she starts, like, the employees aren't allowed to talk to each other. If they're from a different department, they can't say anything to each other. Like, they track they're watching them through their computers. They're tracking their emails. Like, that is toxic. Because she didn't want 100%. People talking about how the machines didn't actually work.
Yeah, because, like, once, like, a couple employees were like, wait a minute, like, the math isn't mathing here, right? Like
the chemist.
Yeah. The kid that's in 13 Reasons Why, right? That kid, is that you're talking about?
Yes.
So he's I can't think of his name, but
he's the grandson, I don't remember either, but he's the grandson of, he was like, wasn't it Henry Kissinger? I want to say. It was like,
oh, yes.
It was
his grandfather.
Yeah, his grandfather. So the grandpa was, like, on the board, kind of got his grandson an internship kind of thing, and his grandson knew something wasn't right. And this other girl he got hired on with also knew something wasn't right. And they're the reason why that brought her down, really.
Yeah.
But no matter how many times he tried to tell his grandpa didn't listen. And
no. And I think that's kind of, like, generally, like, how a lot of this, like, happened for so long, is, like, that people, like, genuinely believed in her.
And also, like, at a certain point, they dropped so much money into it that they didn't want to believe that it was not real, because then what does that say about them?
Right. And, like, I'm going to say this, and I feel like what I'm about to say might be a little, like, controversial. Like, I think, like, if she did have, like, the proper funding and, like, wasn't, like, shady about it, I think that it's really endearing, like, how fucking invested she was, like, at a personal level, and she, like, wanted it to fucking succeed, right?
Yeah.
And I think if she had gone about it, like, in a more, like, earnest way, I think things could have turned out a lot differently for her.
Yeah.
And
if
everyone involved.
To cut the corners. If she was willing to maybe, like, make adjustments to the machine itself instead of going on with this con.
Well, yeah, and, like, you know, she's dropped all this money into an office space and, like, all these things that, like, didn't fucking matter, instead of siphoning the money into, like, where it did matter, which was the actual, like, component, right? Like, the unit. Like, you know, she wanted to have this facade of, like, oh, like, you know, we have a fucking smoothie bar in here, and, like, it's all, like, beautiful and marble, like, and whatever.
She's being compared to Mark Zuckerberg and,
right,
you know, like, all of the people who were starting these tech companies at that time, and, like, she was in 30 Under 30, and you know, like, it started quickly escalating. I also think, and I had talked about this with Audrey, and this was kind of like one of Audrey's sentiments too, is that if she had somebody to properly mentor her and, like, show her the way, but without, like, she was in her 20s when she did this. That is so young. And she had the idea, and I think she would have been capable, but she was just willing to cut the corners when, I mean, at least in this game, when you're telling people if they have cancer, if you're telling people they've got serious illnesses, and you're misdiagnosing people because your machines don't work.
Like, yeah, these are people's lives.
What? So I think it would have been so different if, like, maybe if any one of these big investors or people on her board was just one woman that could have helped her and like taken her under her wing, and like I think it could have been different for sure.
Yeah.
But
well,
also,
and like I kind of think about like her like parents' neighbor, right? Like he he was a dickbag about it, but like he was like, yo, like this isn't a conductive business model. Like none of this is actually like, none of this is gonna work. Like,
right, if she have just like not gotten like I think it all went to her head and it all went so fast that she just kind of didn't.
I'm not saying she's a narcissist, but she's a narcissist.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, so like, right, so it's a little bit of both. Like, if she had mentorship, or if she had accepted maybe her neighbor's mentorship or whatever, but also like the things she did, like that was just piece of shit kind of like person to do those things. And so
100%.
If like there were some differences there, I think that it might have been a really successful company.
Yeah, and like to that point, like Sunny, her boyfriend thing, he I think kind of tried telling her a few times, like, hey, like, what if we like tried this or that, and she was like, oh, absolutely not, like, no.
Right. Well,
and then like he invested like I think tens of millions of dollars, almost 40 million, I think. Like him and his family and businesses. Between
the chemist, there were so many people who could have like if she had listened, maybe could have turned that situation around. But also, you're right, like she didn't want to listen. She wanted it to be her way or the highway, and she really showed that she didn't really care about people. For example,
like she didn't care about the medicine or the science behind it. She cared about her notoriety for it and
how much money they were making, kind of like the prestige of all of it, which was super sad when the I can't remember his name, but the guy who was the chemist killed himself. That was really sad.
Yeah,
and
100%
really didn't care. And then when the two kids with that were the grandson of Henry Kissinger and the other girl, I don't remember anybody's names in the show, but it was like a couple months ago I watched it. But when they were trying to speak out about it, then they kind of started to get like threatened and followed, and they were really paranoid about it.
I just double checked the cast. So the guy that we were talking about, the one that was in 13 Reasons Why, the like chemist kid. Yeah, that's Dylan Minnette, and his name was Tyler Schultz, and his grandfather was George Schultz.
Okay, I was right. Wrong. I mean, not right. I don't. Yeah.
Zach checked your ass.
Thank you.
All good. But, well, like, even, like, that whole thing was nuts, because, like, yeah, like, he was trying to tell his grandpa, like, hey, and he was like, no, like, I absolutely believe in her, and, like, you're full of shit, and he's like, well, who are you gonna believe, like, me or someone you barely fucking know, like, and then, like, his grandma basically stepped in and was like, no, I believe you, like, and, ended up having the kind of, sway point of him ending up pulling out.
Also,
yeah, the whole thing's fucked up.
I thought it was Henry Kissinger is because I think that him and George Schultz were like, they knew each other, and maybe his name was in there, and that's why it made me think of him. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify where that came from. Yeah, and so it's just so crazy, and they do such a good job of like the storytelling part of it, right?
They really do.
And in the end, I thought it was so interesting that one of the girl who was interning basically made a report to this very unheard of federal commission.
So CMS, for a brief nerd lesson here in like healthcare. So CMS is like the government agency that owns Medicare.
Okay.
So Medicare is like basically once you hit 65, like your government pays for, most of your healthcare, like up to 80%. You can choose to have your Medicare plan underwritten by like a commercial insurance. So you can have like Medicare through like Anthem Blue Cross, or like you can get Kaiser Medicare. Like, you can do that. So that way it's like more stuff is covered. Or you can get like a supplemental plan that picks up the other 20%. Right. But like basically like Medicare guidelines stipulate for like healthcare, services and what have you. All the insurance companies, like what they'll pay for is actually based on Medicare's guidelines. Okay. So there's kind of a fun little fact for you. Cause I deal with that every day at work.
Right.
So like, you know, when things are coded to insurance and, like, you know, whatever Medicare chooses to cover or not cover. Medicare will cover most things. Actually, it's the privatized insurance companies that are a little bit more stringent.
Yeah.
But, like, basically, like, if Medicare will pay for something, they typically will. It's not usually the other way around. So usually, like, if, you know, Blue Cross will say, you know, cover a service, like, you know, Medicare would certainly do it, not the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's more hoops to jump through if it's not Medicare. But that being said, they have kind of the, you know, gold standard of, like, what's kosher or not kosher in healthcare, right? Including but not limited to medical devices such as this, which I believe is what this would be classified under if I had to, like, take a stab at it, right?
Yeah.
You know, not much on, like, a blood pressure cuff or, you know, a thermometer or something like that. Obviously, this is a little bit more nuanced because you're dealing with, like, you know, bio-waste and all that because there is a blood component, but...
Yeah, and so what they end up doing at Elizabeth's instruction is they use a different company's machines and then put their logo over it so that the employees don't really know that it's not theirs, but it's a larger machine that's running all the samples.
Right. But, excuse my dog. What was I going to say? Oh, but yeah, so at one point or another, it's determined that, like, there's absolutely no way they can do, like, the single drop of blood thing that she wanted to do from the get-go. Like, the technology wasn't there yet. But it was still a very small sample. Like, I would say, like, kind of, you know, kind of like when you do, like, the diabetes, like, finger prick for, like, the glucose monitors. You know, like, if it's a few drops of blood, but not, you know, one. And her thing was supposed to be, like, painless, like, whatever. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done one of those finger prick bitches. Like, shit hurts.
Yeah,
like,
I have. Yeah, it
I
does
don't...
hurt. I did it. And, you can. That's how you do it. Your gender test if you take a blood test.
Oh yeah.
For if you're pregnant. Yeah. It hurts though.
Yeah, that needle's, like, kind of a thick bitch. Like, but yeah, the whole concept for her thing was that it was, you know, painless, like, almost nothing. Couldn't even tell you did the damn thing.
Yeah.
So, but instead, like, you know, it was a bigger blood sample than she originally wanted, but at least something would run, right? But then they were thinning out the blood samples to make it enough of a sample for these bigger machines.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the results ended up wonky because it was diluted blood.
Right.
And even, like, when they were testing their, like, original prototype machines, like, the shit never ran right. Like, I think, like, the first couple of tests that they were running that were, like, even, like, 70% accurate or whatever were, like, hepatitis or some shit.
Yeah. I think it was herpes.
It definitely started with an H.
Yeah. One of those.
Yeah, one of those H diseases.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then they just slapped a label on a different machine just because they ran samples unlike their own machines. Like, I forget, like, which country they went to, or which state, but they, like, shipped a machine essentially with them to, like, some sort of investor meeting, and, like, that bitch was not working.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Like, they had to, like, turn the hotel room to, like, freezing temperatures, and then they're like, oh no, now the machine's too cold, now it's not running.
Yeah.
And then to your point earlier, like, they get, like, one test that runs. And then they used that result for everything.
Yeah.
Like, they would be like, oh yeah, look, insert sample, here's the fake result.
Yeah.
And they kept that straight up for a while, and then they switched over to the other people's machines with the diluted blood, which that shit don't work.
No. And so, I mean, by the end, it was saying that, like, you know, people were being told that they had cancer when they didn't, or people weren't being told when they had, you know, serious medical issues. Because the machines didn't work, so they essentially get they get audited, and the government shuts them down. And there's really nothing that they can do. So her company is just done.
Exactly. And at this point, like, you know, she already had, like, journalists that were kind of looking into her, and, like, a few people that were like, this isn't good. Like,
it was unraveling pretty quickly for her.
Oh, very much so.
And then I think Walgreens was starting to be like, what's happening? So,
right.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And then parts of the show, right, she was giving deposition because I'm pretty sure she got charged with something.
Yeah, I'm pulling up what the, like, exact everything, because, like, actually this year she was on January 3rd of 2022, she was found guilty on 4 counts of defrauding investors, 3 counts of wire fraud, and 1 of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. She was found not guilty on 4 counts of defrauding patients, 3 counts of wire fraud, and 1 conspiracy to commit wire fraud. So she was charged with a hell of a lot more. Yeah. And really, it's really actually kind of devastating that she didn't get charged with the defrauding patients. Mm-hmm. I know that they were, for the most part, clinical trial type deals. Instead of machines in Walgreens that were just randos. It was people that were testing the machine for their purposes. Mm-hmm. But it's still fucked up. Again, they gave people objectively wrong results.
Yeah.
And then she is awaiting sentencing right now. She is currently at liberty on $500,000 bail. She faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and a fine of $250,000 plus restitutions for each count of wire fraud and for each conspiracy count. Sentences would likely be served concurrently, thus an effective maximum of 20 years total. Sentencing is scheduled for this October.
Whew. I wonder what she'll get.
Because she's a white woman.
I know. I'm gonna
give her the benefit of the doubt and say that she's probably gonna get 12 and a half. Mm-hmm. And then with the 5 years time served, she'll be out of jail in 7 years.
I guess she just had a baby as well.
Oh God. Who's fucked her recently? That's my question.
She's got a partner.
Yikes on bikes.
My internet just froze.
Oh yeah.
So
Billy Evans married in 2019.
Yeah.
Oh, the Wikipedia says indeterminate marriage status.
Yeah, I don't know if
is that
married or not, but they definitely.
Well, it says married as of 2019, but then it says currently indeterminate status. Mm-hmm. So is that the Facebook it's complicated?
I think so. Yeah, that's just wild. So yeah, that's crazy.
That's the Dropout. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a good 8 hours of television, but honestly, well worth it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Amanda Seyfried kills it. Everyone in the show kills it, honestly. Even the supporting roles.
Agreed. I mean, and there'll be some familiar faces. The person, I don't know his name, but the guy who plays Sonny Balwani, I've recognized him from other shows. And,
William H. Macy is in it.
Yeah.
And then, what's that guy's name?
He
was one of the guys from Walgreens, I think. One of the,
yeah.
I'm trying to remember, but he was in, did you ever watch In the Dark?
Yeah.
He plays the cop dude in that show.
You're right. You're right. And then,
Rich Summer.
Yeah. Well, and then, the chemist's wife, isn't she on Grey's Anatomy?
Absolutely, yes, she is.
So yeah, there's a lot of people you'd recognize in it, but I definitely recommend it. It was a really interesting. I could not stop watching it, and after every episode, I was just like, "What the? How?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been out for a few months now. I want to say it came out in April. Yeah, March through April.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I definitely downloaded it to watch it when I went on a bachelor party, and that was in March. So I definitely. Yeah, because it's a few months old, but.
Yeah, I had started it, watched an episode or two, because I forget where the fuck Zach was, but he was out and about somewhere. I was home alone that weekend, so I watched I think 2 or 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. And then when we got COVID, we sat and watched the whole thing. So I was like, actually, I think you'd really like this, and so we rewatched it. So it's been since we had COVID since I've watched it. So middle of May.
It was good. When we had COVID, we watched The Flight Attendant on HBO. Charles.
I know, that was. What did you watch? I'm sorry.
The Flight Attendant. It's on HBO Max. So good.
I loved The Flight Attendant. Did you watch both seasons?
Yes. So good.
So good. I heard the book sucks ass, though, so don't read it.
Yeah, I normally don't read after I've watched because it bothers me. I'll read and then watch sometimes, but I don't watch then read.
Yeah, no. It's almost always a giant disappointment.
Well, since you're...
Much like my son right now.
What are you reading now? Because you're a queen of reading.
So I'm one of those assholes that'll read 4 different things at one time.
I know
so,
you are. If you like books, follow Jamie because she's like book Instagram,
book talk. Yeah. No, I actually have yet to post a damn thing on TikTok ever.
You should get on Book Talk. I'm just saying.
I should.
I'll be your agent.
Oh my god, thanks. Appreciates it. So I'm currently in the middle of The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. That's like a kind of thrillery thing. I'm about a third of the way through, so I haven't gotten to like the real twisty bits yet.
Okay.
But so far so good. You're Invited by Amanda Jayatisa. That's about a wedding in Sri Lanka that the bride gets murdered. So it's a whodunit.
Okay.
I'm about 2/3 of the way done with that one. That's real good. And then I'm currently also in the like first quarter of the third Accord of Roses and Thorns book.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of those. They're all over Instagram, TikTok. A Court of Roses and Thorns, I think, or Thorns and Roses.
Okay.
It's a kind of like fantasy, series.
Okay.
Really good. I'm on the third one.
I'm very into non-fiction right now.
Oh, nonfiction. Then I have no immediate recommendation for you. I'm sorry. Actually, so I downloaded the Libby app. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. Oh, wow. And now you just threw your FaceTime device away.
I just hit my knee. I'm okay, though.
So Libby, if you have a library card, you can link it to Libby and you can have all of your e-media from the library in one place.
Nice.
And you don't have to, like, email it to your Kindle or, like, whatever the fuck. Like, you can do it all in the app. Or you can send, like, the e-books to your Kindle, but you can listen to the audiobooks, like, in the app.
Genius. I'm going to do that.
And you can just rent the books for free. It's great.
Love that.
And I have a few different library cards. I have, like, my local county. I have one out in Florida. No comment there. But yeah, so I can have like multiple like holds and stuff. Well, the one in Florida, so like once like COVID started, they actually opened it to anyone in the continental U.S. So as long as you have a United States address, you can have access to the like electronic media. You just can't get physical books.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they allow like a lot of holds. So like my like county library, I'm only allowed like 10 holds at a time. And so then the one in Florida, I get 20. So I can have like 30 things like held at a time. Like while I'm like waiting for them. I'm not like reading 30 things at one time. I'm not that insane. But like basically like, you're just waiting for someone to return it before you can read it yourself or listen to it, what have you. Yeah, I've been really enjoying that. Read a lot of good books lately for free with the Libby app, but I'm also a big fan of Audible. They have a pretty extensive catalog of just like free shit on there. And then I get my like, 1 credit a month where I can just, if I want something like immediately, I can just get it through, you know, my Audible credit.
Yeah. I used to have Audible, but I sometimes when I'm driving, I like my attention lapses and then I'd have to like rewind and I'd piss myself off, so I stopped listening.
And I'm like a bigger asshole about that too. Like I listen to the books at like 1.5 times speed.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot like stand a slow cadence. Like it makes me want to chew glass.
But also, there's some people I just can't stand their voice, so I would like keep returning the books and like then, so.
No, that's totally fair. I've definitely returned books that I didn't like the narrator. I started finally just doing like the sample before I buy them.
Smart.
So there's your pro tip for the day. But also, I don't know if I should be saying this because I feel like this is like shady. But like if you like listen to a book and you know, you're like, oh, I didn't like the narrator, or I didn't like the whatever, they'll just exchange it for you if it's been, like, less than X amount of days.
Yeah.
No comment, I've never done that.
Never. I just finished reading Where the Crawdads Sing. I think we talked about this briefly on Instagram. It took me a little bit to get into it. I was reading it for book club for work, and so at first I was like, oh, this is... I don't really love overly descriptive books because I read really fast, so I usually just will, like, read too fast through the... I don't know. Anyways, I'm annoying.
No, I get it. Like, very, like, wordy expositions and stuff like that and descriptions. I'm like, yo, get the fucking point. Like,
yeah, I just don't care. I mean, to be honest. I set the scene, that's fine, but, but after the first, I'd say, like, maybe 60 pages, it picks up because it is a murder mystery, right? So at a point, you get, like, really intrigued, like, how do these relationships play out, and who did it, and, you know, all of these things. And so, yeah, it was really good. I finished it. I just couldn't stop reading it, so...
Yeah, I told you this on Instagram. I think I tried starting it, like, 3 times, because when I first, like, got, like, burned a couple years ago, you had sent me, like, an Amazon gift card so I could buy some books for my Kindle, and that was one of the ones I bought. And I started it, like, 3 different times, and I was like, I couldn't get past, like, chapter 4.
Yeah, you just have to keep...
She's just drawn the fuck out, like, exposition stuff, and I'm like, cool. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like...
I just started skim reading that part until it started to get to, like, the meat and bones. And then it picked up enough that I was, like, able to get into it.
I'll give it another try. Yeah, because literally everyone and their fucking brother has been like, no, you need to, like, actually, like, do it. Because I know the movie just came out.
Mm-hmm. I want to go see it.
Yeah, like, Hillary was bitching to me about, like, not having read it yet. My sister-in-law was bitching to me about not having read it yet. Like, I've had about a dozen people bitching about Where the Crawdads Sing to me.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty good.
I'll do it.
I'm also reading The Poisoned City, which is about the Flint water crisis, and it's really good. And also just really depressing, so I had to put it down for a couple of days.
No, that shit is, like, a lot.
Yeah, I didn't know, like, I knew what Flint was, obviously, and I knew, you know, that the water was not safe for drinking, and people had been drinking it, and people had been lying to them, and, you know, they had to get water bottles and use bottled water and stuff like that. But I didn't know the extent of it and how bad it was and why, and it's just incredible. And the book is so well written that, like, nonfiction books for me are either hit or miss, and you know, sometimes they're just really fucking boring, and sometimes, like, they're just so well written that it draws you right in, because it's just, like, enough storytelling mixed with, like, the facts of what happened. And that's how this author writes this book, and it's super, like, it's a good book. It's not, I mean, obviously, like, the content of it is really devastating, but yeah, I would recommend it if people are interested in nonfiction.
No, and I would say, like, generally, like, if I get into nonfiction, like, it's usually, like, a memoir. Like, I'm a slut for a memoir. Like, I don't give a fuck who it's about. Like, I will read it.
Really?
Like,
I don't like memoirs as much.
Oh, God, that's, like, my bread and butter. Like, I especially love if they're audiobooks read by the person.
Yeah.
The one I just listened to most recently was Viola Davis's memoir.
I do love her.
That one was fucking phenomenal. One of my coworkers actually just picked up the book, and she said that she's really enjoying it so far. Her story is super interesting. Did you watch How to Get Away with Murder? Mm-hmm. So her story isn't unlike Annalise Keating.
Really?
Minus the alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers for How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, so it was super fucking interesting, and she, like, drew a lot from her own, like, personal, like, history and upbringing for, you know, playing Annalise. So that was really fucking interesting. Mm-hmm. Also recommend that show if you're into that.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and I was finally over. I mean, I wish it, like, kept going forever, but, like, it had to go to an end.
I feel like it was at that time. It needed to end.
No, definitely. Yeah, well, especially because, like... Show. Yeah, I would say the last season, like, I don't know if, like, how necessary it was. Like, I feel like they were kind of just, like, spreading shit out just to spread it out at that point. Mm-hmm. But, like, if I could, like, get more of season 1 and 2,
yeah,
like, more of that energy.
For sure.
But, so, I wanted to bring this up, but we kind of, like, we skimmed past it. So, the author for Where the Crawdads Sing, did you know that she's, like, wanted for questioning for murder?
Yeah, so it wasn't for her, I read that, but it was, like, for her husband and her son, because I guess they killed a poacher. Yeah. Allegedly, a poacher was killed.
Yeah, so they run a lot of, so her husband runs a lot of anti-poaching stuff, in, like, I think, like, Zambia, yeah.
Yeah, they used to have, like, an animal sanctuary in Zambia.
Yeah, and, some poachers ended up dead.
Yes.
And, they're not connected to that anti-poaching organization. So she's just wanted for questioning in association with it. Is her husband a murderer? Who knows?
Right.
I have no comment on it. I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I saw that news article as well, so if you're curious, you can...
It just came out, like, basically in the light of the movie coming out,
Yeah.
I guess. They're like, oh, BT dubs.
Yeah, I need to go.
Her husband might have whacked somebody. I mean, to be fair, like, poaching is, like, no bueno. Like, let me just, like, make that, like, abundantly clear. But, like, you probably shouldn't, like, murder somebody over it.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just saying.
Fair.
Again, I don't know shit about shit, but, like, I don't think that's very kosher.
Did you watch Ozark?
No, I did not.
It's about, I don't know shit about fuck. That's what she says, and it's so good. Me and Wes say it all the time because it was so funny in that scene. Also, phenomenal show for you guys.
I've heard it's hella good. And actually,
So
that
good.
Julia Gardner is in it, right?
Yeah.
She's, like, the main bitch?
So good.
Or one of the main bitches?
Yes. 10 out of 10. Watch it. I wish I could watch it over and, like, from start and not know what happens. It's so good. One of
Oh,
those.
shit.
So... But anyways,
Well, that's cool.
Alas, I must go eat dinner, so we're gonna have to sign
I know,
off.
I have to go finish my sandwich.
And Dylan's yelling at me.
So, next time we will be back, and we're going to watch a documentary that's been out for a while.
Yes.
It's coming up on its 10-year docuversary. It's called The Imposter. It's on Peacock. I'm not going to give a synopsis of it. You can go fucking Google it.
Yeah.
Or go watch it yourself. It's like an hour and a half.
Go watch
one
it,
of my coworkers,
and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. One of my coworkers has been trying to get me to watch it for like 6 months, and I keep being like, oh yeah, I'll watch it, sure.
I'll watch it,
and then,
yeah.
And then, like, every week she's like, did you fucking watch The Imposter yet? And I'm like, no. So, one of these days. And
Yeah.
by one of these days, I mean,
Soon.
like, in the immediate future.
Yeah, because we're going to cover it. And so DM us your messages, questions, comments, concerns about The Imposter, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, maybe we'll start doing, like, a question box on Insta, like, the day or two before we're going to record.
That'd be fun.
And we can get some input from all you bad bitches.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
There we go. Every now and again, I have a good idea.
You always have good ideas.
Oh my God,
All right,
thanks.
friends.
All right, we'll see you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.